Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent. The people who make the most mistakes succeed more than anyone else. Now, that's what I want to talk with you guys about today. Make more mistakes. This is Wade Vincent. Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast. Now, this is a big one. You know, it seems very counterintuitive when you first start to dive in and think about, you know, your journey and the things that you're trying to learn and achieve and the growth and where you want to go. A big thing is the fear of failure. You know, they often talk about, some people are more afraid of speaking in public and being judged or criticized than they are of dying, and that's fascinating. You know, I've read a few little articles and insights into belief around that stemmed from when we were living in a tribal environment, much more refined than we are now, where if you were, did something that was looked down upon, that it could actually spell disaster for you, because if you were kicked out or expelled from your little tribe, it can mean near certain death. So we've evolved with this real fear around putting ourselves out there and taking shots. And so that's what it's about today. Is make more mistakes. All right. So when I was younger, I used to hate making mistakes, and I don't know where that came from, or if it was something that I just instilled upon myself, just this will to get things right. I've got to get it right. That's what I have to do, and I absolutely hated mistakes. And there's always positives in that approach, in that you do well to deliver what you're expected to do, in that sense that you have a standard or a level of discipline that supports that. But there's a con as well, being that oftentimes I wouldn't push myself outside of my comfort zone, because that's where most mistakes are made. It's easy to not make mistakes if you stay within that small little box, where you live, and you can do certain things, and that's all you stick to. And again, that's that counterintuitive thing. You may feel and seem like that's the wise approach, because you can always deliver upon those objectives, because you know what you're doing. Say you're skilled at one certain area and you stay within that. But over time, that the world is much bigger than that, and it keeps you confined. That's why, the saying, think outside the box. You have to think bigger. Look at where you can grow and who you can become. Right. So I thought making mistakes felt that. Not felt so much, I guess I thought it meant I wasn't good enough. If I made mistakes, it meant that, I wasn't capable, or I wasn't as good as other people, right? So I had this deep-seated belief, that I can't make mistakes. So I avoided anything that pushed me or challenged me and opportunity for growth. I basically, stifled my own growth because I was afraid. And, I just wanted to be dependable. I had such a strong will and ambition to be reliable, I guess, is a good way to put it, so that, people could count on me. If they knew if they had something that needed to be done, that I could do it, and Wade wouldn't make mistakes. He can handle this, and that was my mental framework for a very long time, and I think a lot of that probably was driven by status. If you want to consider social standing, or to be highly regarded. Just wanting to feel feel that I was worth something, I guess. Interesting. And the more I do these, it helps me to sort of dissect my own approach to things, and hopefully you get something from this as well. Because there's putting myself out on the line here, showing you guys, the things I've gone through, and what I'm learning, and giving you some truth and vulnerability here. So yeah, very much driven by a sense of status and wanting to be somebody, right? I think that's held a lot of importance. Just it's for whatever reason, it meant something to me. To know that people could depend upon me, right, and that I could deliver. And all the while, it's easy to sort of, like, we all wear masks, we all put on this, facade, and this is who we are. Who we show the world we are is quite often different to, our true selves, or maybe it's a exaggerated or enhanced version of our true selves, right? So inside, I'm like, I can't let people know that I'm human. Like, imagine if people knew that I was just like them, and I made mistakes, and I wasn't perfect. God, what would people think of me, right? So that was it. That's how I face life head on. No mistakes. Don't mess things up, right? And the you know in hindsight, it's a interesting thing, because when I look at it now, I realize I had stopped myself from actually achieving, in not wanting to make mistakes and not fail. I'd actually basically put a brick wall in front of my own success and growth and achievement. Right away, it had done the exact opposite of what I was looking to achieve. I was trying to succeed by not making mistakes, and at the time I didn't realize that you actually succeed by making more mistakes. It's interesting, right? I think sometimes it's like this interesting framework by the creator, or sometimes I think the God has to have some sense of humor, because it's little things like that make me smile and think, like, people, often the answers are not as straightforward and easy as you think. They're simple answers, but they're counterintuitive, and it's very clever. I think it's interesting, the way that it's all framed and how it comes together, right? So, yeah, I didn't grow. Many of you that have if you've listened to other episodes, or you've watched any of my content on YouTube, you're familiar with my story most likely. And I drove trucks for 10 years, day in, day out. Was pursuing a career in music, so I didn't do anything outside of music in my day-to-day life that challenged myself, or helped me to grow or become a better person or version of myself. So while I was very laser focused and just small, thinking in this tiny little box of music is all I'm doing, everything else was suffering because of that, or maybe perhaps everything, not suffering so much, but everything was left by the wayside because I wasn't putting any attention on other aspects or areas of my life. So in going through that, and after that time when it became obvious that I wasn't going to succeed in a career in music, I had to really step back and analyze my life, and why it was where it was, how I'd gotten there, and how I was going to change things, what I was going to do to get myself out of the position that I was in, that I wasn't, it wasn't a good position, right? So I can remember vividly, having a conversation. I may have spoke about this in the past, where when I first started to open myself up to being vulnerable and being okay with letting people see me make mistakes, I knew that I had to change and evolve and adapt my abilities and skill sets. I can recall when I would look for work, right, as I would go through, those 10 years of driving trucks, and I can recall looking in Seek, right, like it's a job network in essence, I guess, like a job postings website, for those of you that don't have that outside of Australia. And I remember just looking and seeing how small my world was and how limited my opportunities were based on my abilities. And there was a genuine sense of fear around it, because when I'd apply, there was only so many jobs for truck drivers, and there was, limited opportunity for career growth or self development or personal growth, and there's a cap, there's a ceiling on the money you can earn. When you're driving a truck, you're either paid for sort of the size of the load, or you're paid an hourly rate. Typically, if you're an employee, and not a contractor, it's very limiting. You know that you can only sell so much of your time, and the truck can only carry so many things, right? So there was absolutely a ceiling that I'd put upon myself, where I wasn't able to progress, because I was so afraid of making mistakes and putting myself out there and attempting things that were difficult. And when I started to realize this, I knew that I had to start focusing on learning life skills. So, in the sense of traditionally called soft skills, right? So, for example, you can learn specific discipline, like as an engineer, right? That's a very specific skill set, but often softer skills around like emotional intelligence, communication skills, ability to lead a team, bring people together. Just those things that often I believe are probably more valuable skills that get overlooked, because our society has been very structured around that old industrial era workforce. Like, what is your skill set? What piece of the factory are you going to be? That's really what it was. Like, in time there won't probably be truck drivers. There'll be like automated vehicles that drop a parcel at your door. So when I took those first initial steps to improve and learn, and as I said, learn those life skills, one that I thought was really important for me, that through the content I'd been consuming and all the material that I'd been studying and reading, as I worked on my self development, time and time again, it kept coming up. Sales skills, learning how to sell, learning how to negotiate, learning how to come to agreements with people, learning how to get what you want, learning how to give to others what they want, learning how to have that that win-win scenario, right? And all of this information was rubbing off on me. It was really starting to sink in that this is something important that I can use and learn, that will be that will transcend a specific industry. This is a genuine skill that I can use in my life that will serve me well no matter what it is that I'm pursuing, right? So that's a crucial thing to think about. If you're in your sort of journey right now looking at skills that you can learn, look for skills that are going to serve you across different disciplines and industries, right? So as I said, I can remember vividly, I was sitting in the downstairs office of our operations manager at the time, and we were going through union contract negotiations and basically realizing that I was a slave. Like, there's no other like word for it, and it was of my own doing, not in the, understand what I'm trying to get at here. So I was very much how do I put this? I was very much, or my life was very much dictated by other people, and I didn't really have any control of the direction or say in what was happening in my day-to-day life, because I hadn't taken any effort or tried to do anything to better myself and make myself of value and free myself from the position that I was in. So early on, starting that process, right? Just getting the ball rolling and realizing where I was and what I could do about it. And I was sitting in Lance's office, and I'd sort of just been defeated because of these. I was going through the union agreements. I was basically trying to be a representative for the rest of the drivers, and realizing that we just, we had no say. We were controlled. We had to do whatever that contract said, and it made no difference whether it was good for us or not. All that mattered was that, we weren't, able to position ourselves anywhere else. And I can't speak for everyone that worked there, but that was certainly my position. I was trapped. I had no other skills, and looking, as I said, looking for jobs driving trucks. It's a different company. It's the same job. It's the same thing. It doesn't really change very much. And sitting in Lance's office, and I'd sort of suggested learning about sales and getting into sales within the company, because we were a food services company, and I had a background as a qualified chef. I'd been driving for them for maybe 4 years, and really understood those both sides of the supply chain, from the factory right through to actually being the person in the kitchen, the chef cooking the food. So I thought that would position me well to learn sales in an industry where I'm confident and capable and comfortable, because I understand. So leveraging the skill sets and the existing strengths that I had, and more or less that opportunity didn't come about because the sales director at the time, who was open to the idea, ended up leaving the company, and then it was like, oh, that opportunity's gone for me to work into sales in this company. So as I said, sitting in Lance's office, and I handed in my resignation, and he looked at me and he said, I know that you've got a young family, you have 2 young kids. Do you have another job to go to? And I said to him, no, I don't. I don't have another job to go to. And he asked me, looked dead in my eyes, and he said to me, are you sure that you want to do this? You have a family. And I said to him, absolutely, I have to do this, because if I don't do this, I won't take action. I had to push myself outside of my comfort zone and take that risk. Because if I didn't, I knew that I'd just fall back in those same habits, the same pattern. I'd still be working there probably today, and I made that decision, without a doubt. This is that burn the boats, Cortez on the shore of the New World. We're about to conquer the unknown, and the only way to do that is going forward. And if you burn your boats, there is no back. You have to keep going forward. So I saw it as and it could have been the greatest mistake that I made, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made, because it set the wheels in motion and the real almost catalyst of all of the change that's happened as I've worked upon myself, So, it could have been a huge mistake, but me attempting to make that mistake turned out to be a good decision, right? So I quit the job, had nothing to go to, scared my wife crazy, because at the time it was just me working. So it was our only source of income. As I said, 2 young boys, and that 2-week period between quitting and finding another job was a very challenging couple of weeks. A lot of stress and anger and frustration and freaking out, because I thought, have I made like a ridiculous mistake? I don't even know in a month's time. Like, we didn't have any savings. I don't know if I'm going to be able to feed my kids. So it was daunting. It was a scary position. But as I go through these experiences and try these things, I find actually often the greatest opportunities come from you taking bigger risks. And now naturally I'm going to put a disclaimer here that risk needs to be calculated risk, not risk for the sake of taking a risk. You need to consider and look at your options and weigh things up. All right. Now, there, I internally knew that, as I said, I was going to burn the boats. There was no going back. But I also knew, worst case, if nothing else played out for me, I could go back to driving trucks, right? So that option's there. I just made that conscious decision internally that I would never go back. And that's how I approach things in my life is I'm moving forward. Like, it would motivate me to do everything I can, even though I could go back to driving a truck. It forces me, because that's how I frame my approach, to do everything I can to make sure that I never have to go back to driving trucks again. Now, I could, yeah, absolutely, but I was determined to prove to myself that I could learn this new skill set and rise up to the next challenge that I put in front of myself. So it was it was a surreal time, but as I said, if I didn't attempt to do something outside of my comfort zone and make that mistake, I would have never had, probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys right now, in one of the best positions I've ever been in my life, and continually, improving and growing upon that by using the same tools and techniques and principles that I share with you guys. So ultimately, at the end of that transition, going into learning sales and fast forward a few years, I've tripled my income. I managed to triple my income and growing, because I was not afraid to take that risk and make the mistake, step outside my comfort zone and learn something new, and it wasn't even a huge risk to try and learn a new thing at the time. When you can't see forward far enough to know how it's going to play out, it's daunting, it's scary, it's overwhelming, because we're creatures of habit. We like that comfort and safety. It's how we've survived. We're wired that way. But when you want to do something, bigger or bolder or different to what you've experienced or done in the past, you have to do something different to get a different outcome. It doesn't happen. It doesn't just fall in your lap. And if opportunity is presented to you and you haven't gone through this shift in your mindset to be okay with making mistakes, chances are you likely won't even notice the opportunity, because you haven't trained yourself to see it. You're not ready for it yet. So ultimately the benefit, obviously, in far more financial security and freedom and success, changes everything. And on top of that, what was the real gem and the real gold that I gained from these experiences, as I've gone through and learnt from it, is that it's opened more doors for me, more opportunity. So it's a interesting thing. As I said, the counterintuitive thing, the more mistakes you make, not only increase your chances of failing, but it increases your chance of succeeding as well. Now, I really want you to soak that last statement in, okay? The more mistakes you make increase your chances of failing, but they also increase your chances of succeeding. It's incredible, right? It makes complete sense when you really think about it. You're like, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. It's all statistics. It's all odds. It's probability. Um, like I think it was Michael Jordan that talked about you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Powerful stuff. Like you think about, it's easy to consider someone like Michael Jordan and be like, oh, they're just naturally, over time, he's so great at what he does. He becomes the best because of practice. But Michael Jordan has thrown up many shots that miss. He's missed game-winning shots before, and it's about taking those shots. You can't hit the shots that you don't take. You don't make those shots, you've got no chance of getting them. So never be afraid of making mistakes. And a little caveat to that too is, another little bonus really is, you don't need to only learn from your mistakes. That's the beauty of everything that we're exposed to and the opportunities and connections we have with the online community and everyone being connected as one. You have access to information and knowledge and experiences that you can draw upon from others, so you can accelerate your learning. I took 5 years of diving in and studying and learning this, like probably longer now, but at least 5 years, 6, 7 years, working through trying to figure out a lot of this stuff from scratch with no one sort of giving me direction. And this is why I do this stuff, so you can remove all the noise and clutter, and I can give you just the gems, the value of the things that I've learned over that time. You can achieve so much faster. You don't have to go through 10 years of failing in a business to understand business and learn. You can study up and read and look and understand and watch videos and even local businesses. Go get wear those holes in your shoes. Get out, burn rubber on the pavement. Go knock on some doors. Ask people. If you really want to learn and grow, and you're prepared to do what it takes, and you're not afraid of making mistakes, you will have more success than you ever dreamed possible for your life. I promise you. So that's what I want to leave you guys with today. As always, remember, who could you become? Make more mistakes, okay? Take more shots. Take those calculated risks, and then tell me how it works out for you. Let me know in the comments how things have changed for you now that you are starting to shift your mindset and open up to being vulnerable and not afraid to take those risks and make mistakes and learn and grow from them. All right, thank you so much for being here. As always, this is Wade Vincent, and I'll have another episode of the Forever Better Academy podcast for you next Friday. Until then, log on to foreverbetteracademy.com and you can get other insights, content, and resources that will be helpful to you on your journey. All right, guys, have a blessed weekend, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later, guys. Bye.